Hi, friends. I'd like to share a little teaching and a little practice for specifically dealing with difficult times where the ground feels very uneven beneath us and the heart is hurting and the mind is searching for how do I navigate this challenge or these challenges. Sometimes there are many coming at one time, and that can seem overwhelming and indeed be a lot. I've been hearing from many clients and friends and family that right now there's a sense of unease, and I feel it too. And for me, the teachings of the divine abodes or the four heart practices of loving kindness, sympathetic joy, compassion, and equanimity are the go to guides for me. Because humans have always had difficulties, um, from the most innermost personal challenges that maybe no one even knows about because they're challenges in our own private worlds of minds and hearts, all the way out to the most global and universal, planetary, and um, yes. So, what the heart practices, in very brief overview, teach us is that these innate qualities of loving kindness, compassion, and joy can be cultivated. And the compassion and joy and loving kindness can get us out of balance at times. And that might be a time like now. And the practice of equanimity or walking evenly on uneven ground, beautiful description I just learned from a recent equanimity retreat. I'll repeat that. Equanimity could be seen as the practice of walking evenly on uneven ground, can help even our hearts and our minds, which might be overwhelmed by compassion and love and yet into a bit of a distress. So I'm looking back at my notes from this recent retreat, which was so powerful, with one of my mentors, Allison Cohen, and the leaders shared that equanimity, or known in the Pali term of upekkha, is the protector of the sure heart's release. So another way to think about it is that equanimity can help protect and balance our hearts from feeling too much or from shutting down entirely when it's overwhelming. Both of those can be ways that, for example, compassion can be out of balance. And learning how to rebalance ourselves when we find that devastatingly overwhelmed sense of suffering is a very important skill in order to keep our hearts open. A quote from Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and then we'll move into a brief practice. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Mending the part of the world that is within our reach. And I suppose what is important to remember, just like with the Serenity Prayer, is to know the difference. What is within our reach? It's natural to have heartache for things that are assaulting our values, harming others, when there is massive suffering. And to protect our hearts, upekkha, equanimity, can be cultivated and practiced to help us identify what is within our reach, practically speaking, and how can we stay in balance to walk evenly on uneven ground. So if this is of interest to you, let's take the next 5 minutes or so to first ground in our bodies, here and now in this moment, and work a bit with this concept, this practice, this wisdom of upekkha, of equanimity practice, the protector of the heart. So if it feels right for you to come with your mind into your body, and always, friends, remember to offer yourself any individual adjustments that suit you in the moment. My guidance is merely an invitation, an opportunity to see what works for you. But I always like to start with grounding in the body, because right here, right now, this is what's happening at the most personal level. The body is happening, digestion is happening, breathing is happening. So perhaps noticing breath, inhalation and exhalation. Sensing is also happening. So perhaps sensing into where you are grounded. Perhaps it's your feet on the floor if you're standing or seated, your bottom on the chair if you're seated. If you're lying down, just noticing, sensing with body fullness awareness, sensing the contact of your body with the solid, unmoving ground beneath you. Notice that the earth is rising up to meet you and support you right now, unconcerned with anything but being itself, its earthness. Ever present. So sensing into these options within the body that are always there to bring us into the moment, to perhaps create some stability in the mind and the heart. And next, bringing to mind some image of stability. It's often referenced in meditation teachings to consider a mountain or a large tree. But just bringing to mind something that when you connect with this image in your mind, it reminds you of the steadiness of nature. And just connecting with that, and perhaps taking that in, imagining yourself a mountain, solid, strong, unbothered by the storms and the winds and the rains, the sun scorching, fires burning, unmoving. or perhaps a tree. Again, even though nature is always changing, and we are a part of nature, always changing, sometimes in ways that are pleasant, sometimes in ways that are unpleasant. An old redwood tree, 1,000 years old, in the forest in southern Oregon, has seen centuries of change. Feel into the solidness, the resilience of such a being. Feel that in your own body. Another quote that I really loved from the retreat was, "The other face of our pain for the world is our love for the world." So our practices of compassion, loving kindness, and joy might represent the shining of the full sun, the warmth, and shining the light in a way that we all know to feel good. And this equanimity is also bright, like the light of the full moon, cooler, illuminating shadows, and able to guide us through the dark. Perhaps offering yourself a last gesture of loving kindness or self-compassion. If your heart is hurting, that too belongs. Turning towards ourselves with loving kindness and compassion to ease the pain, and remembering the practice of equanimity to help us to walk evenly on the uneven ground, which is being human. Much love.